Costs are going to vary. The Dean's office is interested in getting everyone into sort of a shared platform, into being compliant, and so we will work with you. But it definitely, there will be some burden on the department. So it depends on if you want a website that is kind of out of the box with our current platform and making use of the functionality that we have today, versus you want the Ferrari website that has a lot of customization, in which case there'll be a heavier burden on the department for that. So to answer your question, I'm not answering your question. I recognize that. There is no way to say how much it will cost until you've done the discovery phase. The discovery phase I pay for. How nice of me. That discovery phase is the people that you're seeing in this room. And so that, at least the beginnings of discovery, enough to get a sense of how large the project is, scoped, which will drive the cost, I'm not going to send you a bill for that. And if you get into it and decide, oh my gosh, this is huge and we can't handle it, that's okay. We understand. We actually take what Stanford Web Services offers, the Jumpstart Academic Platform, and we do the development on it ourselves. And the reason we do that is because what we found was that Stanford Web Services was just completely overwhelmed with volume and couldn't manage for all of H&S. So we do, I negotiate with them so that I can use their package. A lot of what I end up paying for you is in the background and you don't notice. I pay for these people who are a big deal, and if you need to go out and get them separately, that's huge. I pay for the Jumpstart Academic Platform. I pay for the web hosting platform. These are all very costly components. The pieces that you will end up needing to pay for are a customization components, and I generally try to do a cost share for the overall project with the department. So we'll say, if you've got this huge project you're planning, or a small one, we look at your budget. We look at what's going on with your finances. We talk to Jim Henry, we talk to various people, and we try to help where we can. But again, there is no standard answer. Stanford Web Services, their packages that they have are very, their packages are based on very standard. You get what they get. Jumpstart, not even Jumpstart Academic, right? It's kind of the old Jumpstart packages. And it doesn't, those packages from Stanford Web Services don't come with any of the things that we're talking about today. Most likely you would want to without me telling you you had to. The reason is you gain all of what you gain from shared services, but I don't have an interest in forcing you to do what I want to do. The only thing that you may be forced to do sooner rather than later is, if you are not on a shared platform, you will have to comply with certain security measures, and that's not happening now. You will have to comply with accessibility issues. That is definitely coming. That's coming from the communications at Stanford University level, not at the H&S level. That's definitely coming, and you'll have to do it. Branding, I suspect there will come a time when someone besides me is going to start talking about that as well. And that also comes from communications at the larger group. But for the time being, what I'm saying is, it's a good idea to do this. If you are adamantly opposed to it, okay. I won't try to convince you otherwise.
I think there's two types of content we're talking about. There's sort of static pages where there's a title and then lots and lots and lots of text that's probably not structured. That we generally do not migrate as a policy, because we find that it's a really good opportunity to revisit that content. Generally, that content is several years old, and it could use a refresh. So we might copy paste it, we might help you to that degree, but we won't build tools to automatically migrate it, because usually it comes with bad styling, and all of a sudden, you know, the end result is incoherent and doesn't match with the new styling of the site. The structured content, so things that might be news, events, people, sort of very sort of form-based content on your old site, that is a lot easier to migrate, and that we look on case-to-case basis. We have pulled it in sometimes it doesn't make sense because it doesn't have the fields that we would want to move to in the future. So it depends. Usually we'll meet every week or every other week for an hour, hour and a half, and we'll go sort of through the sections of the site and the types of content on the site and figure out what we're going to build, what the fields they need, what sort of tagging is needed. For the most part so far we've talked about accessibility in terms of being able to navigate the site without a mouse, for instance, and being able to navigate the content with headings and good semantic content. PDF, I'm not the expert. I understand there is a way to do PDFs that is accessible, and we can bring in Jennifer Sutton, who's the accessibility expert on campus, and she does workshops on making PDFs accessible. So we can definitely make that happen. If you currently have analytics, you're ahead of a lot of people. So one of the things we didn't say here is we do want to bring everybody to a site where there is data and we can start analyzing it. So if you do have analytics data, we definitely use it in sort of at least looking at what are the top pages and what are the main click streams. But it's not something we do for every site because a lot of people don't currently have analytics. We plug all of the analytics into Google Analytics, and we'll do a quick, we'll do a quick workshop, sort of let's figure out what are the 3 to 5 top questions you'd want answered out of your data so you don't get overwhelmed with all of these reports. Let's help you see how you get those questions through analytics. And then usually we'll do sort of a follow-up after the site has launched for a few months, come back and look at it together and see if we want to design things differently. Generally, the data is the top audience, by and large, is prospective students on your sites. So that is your top audience, and the secondary audience is current students, which is why it's fundamental that it has to work on the phone. So, I think very big picture, prospective students, current students, cell phone site. There's a communications branch of the dean's office that might have a different answer for social media. Usually if a department or a unit has social media outlets that they use, then we will help them. We'll put them on the site and we'll plug with them. We can put in a Twitter feed if that's interesting. We can send to a LinkedIn group if that's interesting. We're not pushing you to adopt more because we find there's a whole resource component to it. You need to have staff to manage it. So we have these discussions, but we're not forcing anybody to adopt them. I think it's something we're growing into. Originally we thought this is a platform, we'll help people, we'll sort of stay out of the content business. We're growing into, we really need to help people write good content, otherwise this is a site that is not delivering the value that it could. I don't know if you have something else you want to add to that, but we don't, that's part of what Jessica is starting right behind you, is working with you to figure out how we help you improve the content and plugging into resources on campus that do that.
And there are discussions about expanding that capability within our team. I think actually we're potentially talking about partnering with Stanford Web Services for something like that as well. I think what Marion talked about a second ago, which is that there's a huge volume. H&S is by far and away the largest group of disparate websites all over the universe at Stanford. So we have made huge headway. We are definitely starting with the full-on departments, get kind of our first focus, programs and other things coming next. Clearly, priority-wise, it's those who are in an insecure state, but down at the faculty level, can we help them? Sure. It's the same process, and there will, from a prioritization standpoint, if we're working with 6 departments at the same time, we may have to tell that faculty person, hey, we can't start working with you until X time. Or we may be able to drive them in a way where they could get something that would work for them that's not sort of this full-blown thing. Kind of what we talked about. So Stanford Web Services does offer these kind of small package deals that might be more appropriate for a faculty website. CAP, which stands for Community Academic Profiles. So Dean Arvin has been sending out messages to the faculty and as well as Richard, talking about H&S adopting CAP. CAP definitely has a component to it that is website related, in that it posts a lot of the stuff that faculty care about putting on a faculty page is in CAP, because it's their publications, their classes, their bio, CV, etc. So I think a couple of things are coming that will help with those faculty sites, but we can help them if they head our way.
We do work with web services. It's not that we don't think they have a valuable solution, it's just it's not the right solution for everybody and for every scale. But we also are working with them to figure out, is there a good offering for sort of the lab, sort of the faculty lab level, and what would that starting package look like? So it's a partnership.
It depends. It depends on are you looking for a site that's kind of fits into a quick package, a quick turnaround, in which case it could happen very quickly. If it is a large, protracted customization site, it may be a few months before this group can actually spend a lot of their time with you. They are, as you saw in one of their screens, they are actively participating, working with departments right now. But one of the reasons that this group was created is because we knew that there was such a difficulty when reaching out to other resources on campus, and that the time frame was so long before you could get someone to work with you. That is why we are doing this, so our hope is that we can serve the needs much more quickly. Is that the same thing you would have said?
Yeah, I would have said, Barbara always says we're going to say yes if somebody needs help, and we're going to say yes within a small amount of time. So we've worked really hard to identify resources to help us scale. So if tomorrow we get 5 more people saying we need something, we need to start it, then we'll do our best to accommodate that.
There are more people on our team than you see here. So we make use of external developers, other types of support options. These are your front-face people who you will deal with, but they have counterparts and other types of resources in the background. I know that AFS is going away. As far as have they set a date in the sand? No. Is there a plan in place for what will happen to those sites when AFS goes away? I think that's what people are trying to figure out right now. And I will tell you that I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to call it Central IT, University IT, is very much looking at the exact same path we are taking. So that's great news for us. It means that we're not off road. We're going to, kind of follow along with them. Your question about security, yes, we take that very seriously. I actually think that with the Amazon Web Services platform, so what I should explain is that though we are using Amazon's infrastructure, the people who support it and run it and build it are Stanford people. So all we pay for them really is kind of this infrastructure piece. This is this chunk of hardware that sits out there. But all of the maintenance of the Drupal platform, all of actually maintenance of the sites, et cetera, are run in conjunction with our group, and I contract with a group through University IT that does that. I actually think that the Amazon Web Services platform will be more secure than what we currently have in many ways. So I think it's a positive move. But as far as, I think, mostly you're asking, when will that happen? I don't know. I just know it is happening.
Can I say something about
Yeah.
AFS? What we usually find out when we get into looking at AFS data is we find it's being used for multiple purposes. There is your website being put on AFS, and that's definitely something that Amazon Web Services is a great platform for. And then it's oftentimes also being used as sort of a shared file server. And that, depending on what the audience is for that, does it need to be secured? Then there's lots of different solutions. Stanford has a partnership with Box. There's all kinds of different ways that we can support the file sharing. That's not the front-end web pages. So sometimes we scratch a little bit deeper and figure out what the different solutions are. We work with the University Archive to, even before we launch your new website, one thing we do is we work with them to archive the legacy sites. So there's some kind of repository of the presence of the websites. When you say legacy content, is legacy website content or legacy sort of professors' software that was put on AFS 10 years ago and that's gone?
I'm not going to say to you, you have to do what I say, but what I'll tell you is that it's not sustainable. What we're trying to make something that is sustainable. If you go off and do your own thing, it just means that you have to provide your own sustainability. It means that you have to have a plan for how are you going to support WordPress 10 years from now or 5 years from now? How are you going to support your web hosting platform when it goes away? How are you going to support that web designer that you worked with, their developer who was a grad student and is gone? It just means if you're not coming with us, it just means you have to figure that out on your own. I want to provide paths so that you don't have to do that, but I'm not going to tell you you have to come along. We're going to continue to support you in ways that we have in the past until you can do something different. But for all the same reasons, you probably want to move to the shared platform just because it takes so much of that out of your hands of dealing with.
There's a couple. Sally, so the campus image archive is a good one to look at. And then there's all kinds of Creative Commons images that you can look at. And we can work with you on, start looking at these couple of places and make sure the resolution is such and so on.